Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, in this video, we dive into the fascinating stories, secrets, and mysteries of the ancient world. So if you love history, lost civilizations, and unsolved theories, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Imagine a city larger than Mesopotamia, older than Egypt, and more sophisticated in urban planning than many modern towns. A place with no kings, no palaces, and apparently no wars. But then one day, it vanished. This is the story of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world, the sudden disappearance of the Indus Valley Civilization. What caused such a mighty society to collapse almost overnight? Was it war, disease, climate change, or something even more mysterious? Today, we're diving deep into the rise and the eerie fall of a civilization that has baffled archaeologists for over a century. Around 2600 BCE, along the fertile plains of the Indus River in present-day Pakistan and northwest India, rose an advanced civilization. They built grid-like cities, complete with underground drainage systems, baked brick houses, public baths, and even flush toilets over 4,000 years ago. They traded with Mesopotamia, crafted intricate jewelry, maintained standard weights and measures. Their cities, like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, housed tens of thousands, but astonishingly, there's no evidence of palaces, no temples, no weapons of war. Unlike the Egyptian pharaohs or Mesopotamian kings, we still don't know who ruled the Indus Valley. In fact, we don't even know what language they spoke. Their script remains undeciphered. But around 1900 BCE, something strange began to happen. The well-planned city started deteriorating. People seemingly abandoned urban centers, moved to smaller villages. Then, the civilization vanished. No signs of massive war, no huge fires, no mass graves. It's like they simply packed up and left. One of the most widely supported explanations for the decline of the Indus Valley Civilization centers on dramatic climate change and shifting environmental conditions. Around 2000 BCE, geological and paleo-environmental studies indicate a significant weakening of the monsoon rains that the civilization heavily depended on for agriculture and daily water supply. The mighty rivers, including the Ghaggar-Hakra, which many scholars link to the ancient Saraswati River mentioned in Vedic texts, began to dry up or change course. This gradual drying up drastically reduced the availability of fresh water and fertile soil in the region. Crops would have failed repeatedly, leading to food shortages and malnutrition. As the environment became increasingly arid, large urban centers like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa could no longer sustain their populations. With water sources dwindling, people were forced to abandon cities and migrate towards more hospitable areas, possibly eastward toward the Gangetic Plains. Sediment and pollen records from the region support this hypothesis, showing a decline in vegetation and increased desertification. Moreover, the loss of trade routes caused by changing river patterns disrupted economic networks. This environmental stress may also have caused social upheaval and weakened political structures, hastening the civilization's collapse. Unlike sudden disasters, this theory implies a slow and painful decline that stretched over centuries, where people gradually shifted from urban to rural lifestyles. While it does not explain an overnight disappearance, it highlights how fragile even the most advanced societies can be in the face of nature's changing rhythms. This theory is reinforced by similar climate-related collapses in other ancient civilizations worldwide, suggesting a broader pattern of climate influence on human history. In summary, climate change deprived the Indus people of their essential resources, triggering a demographic and cultural shift that ended their golden age. Another explanation proposes that the Indus Valley Civilization did not fall suddenly, but rather experienced a gradual decline caused by complex internal factors. Archaeological evidence suggests a steady reduction in the quality of urban planning, brick sizes, and craftsmanship after the peak Harappan phase. This degradation may indicate weakening central control or the breakdown of established social and administrative systems. Over time, the once thriving cities may have lost their ability to organize large-scale public works, such as drainage and water management, critical for urban survival. Social inequalities might have emerged, or perhaps religious and cultural shifts created divisions within the population. Economic factors such as inflation, loss of long-distance trade, and resource depletion could have contributed to unrest and poverty. Increasingly, people may have moved to smaller villages and subsistence farming, abandoning large urban centers. This slow process would mean that by the time archaeologists find ruins, the cities had been empty for generations. Unlike catastrophic theories, this idea stresses a complex web of failures, including governance, economy, and social cohesion. Some scholars believe that this process may have lasted for hundreds of years, making the civilization's disappearance more of a transformation than an end. Oral traditions and cultural memory may have been preserved by migrating groups, influencing later societies in the Indian subcontinent. This theory fits the archaeological record of increasingly sparse urban remains and suggests that the Indus people adapted but could not maintain their complex society. It challenges the notion of a mysterious overnight disappearance and instead presents a slow fading away caused by a combination of human and environmental factors. It reminds us that civilizations are living organisms that can wither due to internal weaknesses, even without external shocks. The Aryan invasion theory was one of the earliest and most controversial explanations for the fall of the Indus Valley Civilization, proposed in the 19th and early 20th centuries by colonial scholars. It argued that nomadic Indo-Aryan tribes invaded from Central Asia, destroying the Indus cities through warfare and conquest. This theory suggested that the Aryans brought with them new languages, culture, and religious practices that eventually became dominant in the Indian subcontinent. However, in recent decades, this theory has faced strong criticism and been largely discredited by modern archaeology and genetics. There is little to no archaeological evidence of widespread destruction, such as weapons or mass graves, to support a violent invasion scenario. Instead, sites show gradual abandonment and peaceful transitions. Genetic studies reveal a more complex pattern of migration and admixture, rather than a sudden replacement of populations. Current scholarship favors a model of cultural diffusion, where Aryan-speaking groups migrated gradually and mixed with existing populations rather than invading violently. This more nuanced view sees the transformation of culture as a slow and mutual process rather than a conquest. The Aryan migration theory is still sometimes referenced in popular discourse, but is considered an oversimplification. Some suggest that the Aryans were more likely pastoralists who gradually settled and integrated with the Indus people. This explanation acknowledges that cultural and linguistic changes took place, but without catastrophic collapse from outside forces. It also emphasizes the importance of avoiding colonial-era biases in interpreting ancient history. Overall, while migration played a role in the region's cultural evolution, it did not cause the overnight disappearance of the Indus civilization. Another intriguing but less evidenced theory is that the Indus Valley Civilization may have been devastated by epidemic diseases. Dense urban populations with advanced but still primitive sanitation systems could have been vulnerable to outbreaks of contagious illnesses. Though they had drainage and sewage, stagnant water and crowded living conditions might have facilitated the spread of waterborne diseases like cholera or dysentery. The disappearance of populations due to a sudden epidemic could explain why cities were abandoned abruptly without signs of destruction. Unfortunately, there is limited direct archaeological evidence to confirm this theory because diseases rarely leave clear marks in the fossil record. Some skeletal remains show possible signs of illness, but conclusive proof is lacking. Epidemics might have compounded other stresses, such as famine or social breakdown, acting as a tipping point. It's also possible that a combination of new pathogens introduced through trade routes could have overwhelmed the population. The lack of written records or inscriptions from the Indus Valley means we have no direct accounts of such crises. Still, epidemiologists studying ancient diseases consider this a plausible scenario, given the parallels with other historical collapses. For example, the plague of Justinian contributed to the weakening of the Byzantine Empire centuries later. The disease theory helps explain the lack of battle damage or mass violence evidence. It also highlights the vulnerability of early civilizations to microscopic threats that modern medicine can now control. Ultimately, while not proven, disease remains a compelling factor that could have accelerated the decline of this advanced society. The Indus Valley isn't the only civilization to disappear mysteriously. Easter Island, Rapa Nui, a small population carved massive stone heads, the Moai, then collapsed due to deforestation and internal strife. The Mayans built mathematical temples, but cities were abandoned. Climate change, rebellion, and droughts likely caused their decline. Do you know why it still matters? The Indus Valley may have vanished, but its legacy lives on. Their standardized brick size, still used in parts of South Asia. Their urban planning, a model for modern sustainable cities. But most importantly, their mystery reminds us that even the greatest societies can fall. We often look at ancient civilizations as distant tales in dusty books. But the Indus Valley is a ghost whispering from our past. No matter how advanced we are, without harmony with nature, without adaptability, and without understanding, we too may vanish. What do you think caused the fall of the Indus Valley? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Until next time, stay curious.